Yes, but yes.
This time we failed to surprise her.
She will come next week.
She's the one who has surprised us, but
yes.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Then I will jump the other side and leave our, host here and go to the secretary of Makerere University, the great Makerere University, Mr. Chiranda Yusuf, not yet doctor, but I'm sure, I know he's a very ambitious guy, so I'm sure there is something cooking up the sleeve. But Mr. Chiranda, you're most welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Charles, and good evening to our viewers.
Good to see you. The last time we were together, you were all black. You know what I mean? Now, I don't know whether it is the stress of managing the biggest university in Uganda with all its problems, or it is just graying gracefully.
Charles, we have aged.
Oh,
I think
it's
this is a manifestation
so
that
fast.
I have grown. Yeah,
good to see you in that. He's not an odd man out, in terms of graying. So the Honorable Mapenduzi Ojara Martin is MP for Bardege Laibi in Gulu City. You're most welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, good. We need to start the discussion. I want to start with Shamim, but I was, as the president was addressing the nation, I was following on WhatsApp, and social media is a buzz, and I wanted us to. It was late to invite Chairman Mao to this show, but the biggest news, if you like, is the cartoons doing the rounds on social media, painting Mao as someone said, no, actually Joel Senyonyi, who has not been very economical with using any kind of words against Mao on shows, and he tweeted and said, I saw him, I think, tweeting or on Instagram saying that Mao has been cohabiting with the NRM for long, that finally he has gone into the real wedding. I am following, and I wanted you guys to make very brief comments from whichever side you want about this. Some people call it a pact, some people call it a cooperation, but NRM, the president himself, that means it is very important. President Museveni does not, spare a big political moment. He goes for it himself. So he himself put pen to paper with the DP, and that it is a working agreement being signed. From whichever way you look at it, Achiteng, we shall just do that, just pop in 5-10 minutes. Each of you 1-2 minutes. What do you think about this? Do you think it is a great thing for the two sides?
Under normal circumstances, it would have been something worth celebrating. But given the context and the governance issues within this country, I think it is sad that that pact was signed.
What is the context that you are referring to? What makes it sad?
So in a country where you have a pushback on the opposition, in a country where you have shrinking civic space, in a country where you have gross abuse of human rights, when the opposition signs a pact with the abuser, I would look at it as a sellout and not necessarily a merger that would have positive results. So on my side, it's quite disappointing, but like Joel, I think we all saw the cohabiting happening, and we shouldn't be surprised at the wedding. Over to you.
Honorable Martin, in terms of the comparison, maybe perhaps Martin comes from Gulu City like Mr. Mao himself. Let me bring in Chiranda to give us that comparison. Why is it hard for Ugandans to copy Kenyan politics, which is giving them more progress, especially if you see from about the last 15 years? You see Raila moving with Kibaki, then, or even 20 years almost now, he goes with Kibaki, then he says Kibaki Tosha. Totally different sides. Then they work things, he was a prime minister, and they work together for the good of the country, for the good of the nation. Then, later, he's now working with Uhuru. We are yet to see, but Kenyans think, many Kenyans, I'm told, think that that is going to be an amazing outcome from. And then, of course, we have seen other, such coalitions happening just in Kenya here, whether bad or good from whichever way you look at it. Why can't Ugandans learn that and say it's good when coalitions take place?
Thank you, Charles. I think I will say three simple things. Number one is that copying and pasting, my teachers here tell me, is extremely dangerous. And if you did it in Dr. Kakuru's class, he would fail you. So
is Kakuru a scientist?
Is a philosopher. So I would not expect us to even imagine that Ugandans should be copying Kenyans, but should be probably learning from. There is something we call policy learning and learning in management. So learning from how our neighbors do it would be okay. And then the second thing to that, which I would like to say, is that in principle, there is definitely no problem with people from different shades of political opinion seeking to work together. You can have a debate about it on whether it is good or it is bad, but that moves me to my third and final point on this issue, that, and this is also something I learned from Makerere, that don't discuss something for which the details are not yet clear to you. So we do not know yet what is in this pact, and I think my teachers, the members of MWASA, would not believe that I am a good student if I start debating what I don't know. So they have
really humbled you, taught you many things, right?
Yes.
Okay. Shamim, what would you say? I know that you come from NUP, and it's a good coincidence that a NUP representative is here in one way or the other. Chairman Mao and NUP have never had it easy recently. He said, he called it the one-man army.
Yeah.
Mao called himself the one-man army against taking on the massive, NUP Twitter soldiers or social media soldiers. What do you say about this?
I would first and foremost like to note that it's not open to us yet what are the contents within this agreement of cooperation, but from the look of things, it's an agreement of cooperation. So we all must agree that whatever is there must align with cooperation, that maybe they are cooperating, and now that's why I start to question that by the time you were in opposition or you had a different political parties are built based on principles and the kind of agenda you're trying to sell. So the reason why there is NUP, there is DP, there is NRM is because we have different principles or different things in which we believe the way things should be done. So if you, who has been claiming to be opposition, you're now cooperating with NRM or the party in government right now, that for most of us do not see the achievements other than gruesome abuse of human rights, killings, abuse of just our human rights and whatever comes in. So it simply shows us that you're now going to cooperate in whichever ways they've been operating. And I think for us, it's just, you're cooperating with the oppressor and you've decided which side you belong to.
In other words, you're saying that DP's ideology is now in jeopardy, or
it was never there.
I've been hijacked.
No. What if Mao tells us tomorrow that they are the ones who have brought NRM to the center?
Really?
That they have moved to the center a bit, meeting in the middle?
Really, Charles?
I'm just saying, what about? What if? You have to, in this world, anything is possible.
Anyway.
Dr. Kakuru. Dr. Kakuru, what is your take?
Thank you, Charles. Like the previous speakers, I'm not privy to the content of the agreement.
Did you see it coming?
Not really. It's actually a surprise.
Oh.
But the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda gives people the right to associate. And it doesn't describe how people should associate. They associate in any way. And it's one of the things that probably we are going to discuss.
Yeah.
So if the Constitution gives people the right to associate, it gives political powers to federate, to come together and work together. And they have chosen to do that. Then they let them do that. Yeah.
Good. Honorable Mapendezi, I know this may be, the reason I want you to be the one at the end is, you know, picking some ideas from your colleagues, because I think, if I am not mistaken, for you it is one of those toughest, you know, commentaries to make.
No,
you know,
not at all.
in terms of whether, did you see this coming, first of all? Are you surprised? What do you think will come of this? Do you have an idea of this pact, of this cooperation? Is it going to be a sort of, will it bring a sort of a Marshall Plan for, you know, for progress?
Well, first I would say I've never been a member of the Democratic Party. And it's difficult to tell what happens inside their party. I also do not know what their constitution says as a party, but I want to believe that possibly there are provisions for something like that. I've also never been a member of the NRM. And so,
but you are a political actor.
Yes, I am.
And you meet and interact with both.
Yes, I meet and interact with different people, but I do not know much about what happens in these different political parties. But this is what I can say. I look at it from a very different angle. And of course, there are people who will make statements out of excitement or out of frustration, and that's understandable. That is okay. Like what Joel said, is free to say that. Of course, their party and DP have been having issues and all that. But I look at it differently. Number one, as opposition political parties, I think they need to get to the drawing board, because these guys are up to something. And so if you are going to underestimate Mao or President Museveni for the decision they have taken, you are far from getting the point. They are up to something, and so that is where the opposition political parties need to spend time in thinking and trying to figure out how to maneuver through this kind of, because it's definitely not coming from the blue. By the time a party leader, a party president, and by the time someone like President Museveni, who from all we have seen in the previous years, is someone who has not been has been hesitant in dealing with or even trying to get parties to work with him, because the NRM is the giant and all that. And so when you begin to see President Yoweri Museveni now talking and signing a cooperation agreement, there is something cooking. So people should begin to look in that direction. The other thing is then you begin to, because there was a day I talked about the post-Museveni Uganda. And so there are a lot of discussions going on. And so when you begin to see this kind of arrangement, maybe NUP, instead of spending time to talk about President Museveni and Norbert Mao, maybe NUP needs to start talking about, okay, is that the direction the country is going to take? Are we going to start building blocks to Can NUP and DP begin to mend fences and begin to talk? Now I see something in Soroti, some relationship, the campaign in Soroti and all that. So looks like in the next few years to come, Uganda is going to start learning from probably the experience of Kenya. There are many countries. We are getting into desperate times, and so there are a lot of things that will happen. And so for me, I would love to spend a lot more time trying to see how we, from the opposition, are going to understand this kind of environment. And if people are not careful, and then we go using the usual style of talking and talking and talking and lacking sophistication, then we will be defeated, you know. So we need to take time. Yeah. There is something cooking up, and it should not be underestimated.
Brilliant. That's an interesting one.
Yes.
You know, Isabella, we need to move to another topic. The main topic.
She wants to discuss.
She wanted to discuss this.
Please, by all means, carry it to next week.
We will. I can bet you. And you know, when you say there must be something cooking, that, you know, this is not coming from the blue, I want to agree with you. I will say it here. I knew discussions were going on last year.
Cohabiting.
I knew discussions were going on last year from my sources in both camps, deep. As those, you know, they would say, some deep throats told me. And the only thing that has surprised me is that it has happened now. I thought the discussions would be pushed on up to maybe the next coming elections, and with those kind of building of blocks that the Honorable Mapenduzi is talking about. But you will be surprised, there were serious discussions even as early as June last year. So for me, I'm not surprised this has happened. It has happened. What is now important, like Yusuf and Shamim have said, and yourself, let's see what is in the pact. And then we start to do what? What do you do with the pact? You unpack it. And
yeah, you unpack the
yes, we shall unpack it. So
maybe,
yes.
Maybe it will be the start of us going back to the national dialogue process, of which political federation was part of. Was part of the key pillars.
Okay,
but,
good.
And that's why I'm saying maybe this will trigger a discussion, and people begin to reflect, and they begin to join groups, and then we'll open the space for that dialogue and talking about transition, and there could be many things coming up. But each group has to take this very seriously.
Okay.
Yeah, you call it cohabiting, you will be joking. Take it more seriously.
But cohabiting is a serious thing.
But you can be dropped during cohabiting.
You
can be dropped during cohabiting.
Yes, you can be dropped. The relationship can fail during cohabiting.
But it can also succeed, and you sign a pact.
Yes. In fact, you know, those who cohabit and successfully go into wedding
are serious people.
Are very serious people.
Like we can see today.
So if you think they're not serious, okay.
I did not say they're not serious. Yes.
Shamim,
it's okay.
Makerere University, Makerere University and its problems. You left just a few days ago, and then immediately you left. You left a caretaker government in place for the student body, and then immediately after that, an election is being organized, violence erupts and turns bloody, and unfortunately we lose. Was that a student? He was a student, but from another university. Those are some of the things we shall be discussing, and we will keep it fast enough so that we can you know, have conversations on different limbs on things about Makerere University as much as we can do. So what exactly, from your point of view as a student, is the problem at that place that we don't see from where we are sitting?
Thank you so much, Charles. I send my regards and greetings to the country at large, and I send my sincere condolences to the family of the deceased, to his friends, the UCU Guild President and the UCU fraternity and the country at large. It was a very sad moment for us all, and we pray that his soul rests in peace. I'm going to keep it brief and just straight to the point and what exactly actually did happen, because everyone has been asking, how did we get here? How do we get to this point? And for me, I think it's a point for all of us to sit down and look into and try to analyze who was supposed to do what and who didn't do what. That we must all note that while the electoral process takes place, it is largely run by the Electoral Commission, but this Electoral Commission is under the supervision of the Dean of Students, who exactly represents management and administration. But most importantly, I think for most of us that were there and saw how things ran, we believe that the police was there from the start when everything started, because actually the Electoral Commission notifies the police that we are going to be at this particular point in time and at this place. But the police was there from the very first point when the first groups of people that were arriving did. And even when the tensions were starting to rise, when the two groups were going to start the fights and, you know, throwing bottles and all that, the police was there. And I believe that maybe they slept at the job. That would have prevented this kind of thing happening. But then the police intervenes when people have actually dispersed. That's when we start to see them firing tear gas and bullets. But they would have actually intervened at a much earlier stage and prevented such things from happening. So I believe that much as we try to do this, and we condemn it as the student fraternity and as the guild president, the outgoing guild president, I would condemn such an act on any day. It was wrong, the violence that sparked everything that happened, it was not right. But then we cannot shy away from some facts that should be looked into. So after now, the police, I believe that the police didn't do their part. Or maybe they did, but they had forgotten that they're supposed to start at this very point in time. And then now it brings me to how is this electoral process run? That you find that this event or whatever happened occurred at about 7 p.m. And for anyone that would understand would first question and ask, why is the university allowing such activities to take place at wee hours of the day? Why are we having these campaigns going into the night? Why are we having campaigns going into the nighttime? And I think that's where the administration is supposed to come in and say, look, by 6 or by 5:30, we don't expect any rallies to be taking place. People can do these things during day. And I want to believe that much as we may say no matter what happened, that yes, we want to prevent violence and we're against violence, but then we shouldn't put situations that are going to encourage people into such acts. And I want to believe that we all agree that it's during the night, all those weird times of the day, that people are actually forced into doing such things. And that is why we are here today, because we can't even identify the person that did it. This could have been avoided had we had such things happening during the day. And yet again, I think in the times before, and I think the university secretary can agree, that we used to have these rallies at the halls of residence. And there's been precedent that when we used to have these campaigns or these rallies at the halls of residence, it was always on the last day that we had a lot of violence or such issues of people pulling ropes happening when they were going to the Freedom Square. But the other days they had their rallies in their halls of residence, and I think it was much safer there. And these are things that the administration should have paid attention to when they were making the regulations in 2018, 2019 electoral regulations. But yet still, because what I'm trying to bring out is, as we dissect this issue, everyone must know that we were supposed to do this and we didn't do it right. So now the administration again says, no, don't go to your halls of residence, go to these neutral grounds. And this is what has happened. Because why then would you say, let's go to neutral grounds, when the precedent you have is that whenever people went to the Freedom Square, which is supposed to be neutral, these kinds of things happen. That if we are to ask ourselves, for example, have we ever seen Genome 7 and His Excellency Bobby Wine having a rally in the same place? We have not had that, and why? So wouldn't the administration have thought that maybe let's have these kinds of things being done in a much better way? And I think that is a debate that we can go into while we look at how do we address these issues. But for me, I believe that such things could have been avoided at a much earlier stage. and wouldn't have gotten to these extremes.
Brilliant, brilliant. I like that, that setting of the stage for, with the roles, the duties, and good thing we have the secretary here. Let me run straight to Mr. Chiranda. Yusuf, you hear what the guild president has just said. You guys knew as administration, why did you allow this to happen? Or are there part of the blame that you, as administration, you want to shoulder, that yes, we made this, we did bad, we can correct it next time? Could this have been avoided like she is suggesting?
Thank you, Charles. First, I joined the nation in mourning the death of Michael. It should not have happened. Nobody would expect that a democratic contest of young people, of students, would cost a life. That was sad. Now, what would also be unfortunate is if people who took part in this process struggle to find who to blame except themselves. If there is anything the university management should be heavily blamed for on this issue, not to say that there is completely no responsibility, but should be for listening to the students when they kept saying we are mature and we can run our affairs. The Student Guild campaign at the university is organized by a Students Guild Electoral Commission, which is voted by the Students Guild themselves. And I remember when the current Electoral Commission was voted into office, I had a meeting with them. And I told them we commit to the principles of making sure Makerere remains the freest space in this country and probably beyond. Management wants to uphold that. We want you to have this election by yourselves, as your constitution says, but you will invite us the moment you start breaking rules, doing things which are not consistent with what we expect of the university. That is why even before the election started, some students were suspended. And when that happens, of course, people say it is high-handed. With what happened on Thursday, we think we should have even acted more harder. So the point I want to make here is that, and it goes back to the theme of the discussion you posted today, the idea of Makerere politics and culture. People making the assumption that there are certain things without which you wouldn't be having a discussion about student politics at the university, the brigades, the violence, the fights. And management has been having a lot of conversations with the student leaders, including High Excellency. We have an oath of secrecy, Your Excellency. You know, I can't say the things you have been defending in the council when management says, no, this should not be happening. So, unfortunately, the students abused the trust which the council and management gave them and acted, and this is not the first time. You know, we have even had in the past to suspend some activities by the students, porridge nights. The other day, they fought each other at Freedom Square and destroyed the square, and some students were hurt. The student we are dealing with whose skull was cracked out of the scuffle. And we had decided to do with all these activities, but again, on the appeal of the student leadership, management said, okay, we have to trust that you're adults. When the police intervenes, management had at one time decided, because of these issues again, call for more deployment of the police. Even at one time, we asked for the army to come to campus to provide security to protect our students from probably killing each other. They petitioned everywhere, up to Parliament. So it's a bit surprising that Her Excellency now is here again saying the police should have done this. I have been talking to policemen who were on duty, whose students were saying, don't interfere, this is our culture, when they come with sticks. And indeed, if they had done, the violence would have taken another nature at the moment. So I
But
think the lesson has been learned.
I hate to intervene, Mr. S. Chiranda, but I'm looking at you as the head of that administration in terms of management, and then I'm comparing this situation to even the national elections, where there are more mature people or more aged people, presidential candidates, and electoral commission does not allow any two sides to be in one place on the same day. And I guess that's her argument. And from your perspective, I am feeling hard pressed to actually agree with her against your argument that you decide to say they have betrayed your trust. These are young people.
Charles, that's not how they see themselves. I was a student leader myself. I was a guild president.
Yes, and that's why
I campaigned. I campaigned with colleagues. I didn't kill anyone. I didn't. There was no bloodshed during our campaigns. So she's the 87th guild president. That means there were 86 before her, and she was 87th. They have not murdered anyone. There is something fundamentally wrong now. So when I said there is an abuse of trust, you know, there are things will go on. The guild is non-partisan. It's non-denomination. There are all those issues, and we can have a conversation about that. I think it will be extremely unfortunate if we jump away from the perpetrators of the murder and start to blame the people who in the first place try to make sure that Makerere University remains a free society. Whatever we do to try, and it even ends up in court sometimes when you say you can't do this, no, it is our freedom, it is academic freedom, it is this kind of freedom. And now this should not be construed to mean that I don't think that management has a responsibility in terms of what has happened. We have learned lessons. The council has put up a committee to look into this matter much more deeply, and they are doing so. But it would be very wrong to try and now appear like, well, these are babies. These are intellectuals, and they have responsibility. We do have responsibilities as management, but I want the guild president to take a responsibility, and it will be good if she does so now.
Won't it be even much better if charity begins at home? You take your part of the responsibility as administration.
Charles, I just said we do take responsibility.
Thank you very much.
And the council is looking at us. Their question is let me tell you some of the issues. They're asking us, Honorable His Excellency Shamim talks about the halls of residence. They are used to be fights at halls. That's why elections were moved from there. We are talking about these external people. Council is asking us, we hear the people who sometimes make it in the halls when they are not supposed to be students. Did you flash them out? Who was at the campaign? How did they get in the universe? And so on and so forth. So management is having to answer its own questions in this matter.
I like that.
But Her Excellency and her team should also answer their questions.
You know, it takes two to tango, and what I like about this discussion is that the administration is the duty bearer, and sometimes it does not need to necessarily commission an offense or a wrong. It can actually commit a wrong by omission, by failing to do its part. While the students, who are the active guys, can really commit the offense by actually commissioning or whatever offense has taken place. Good point. I want to come to Dr. Kakuru, save that I have to go for a break right now at this point. We're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, Dr. Kakuru and Isabella and Honorable Mapenduzi. But let's take that break now. We will be right back. This is Behind the Headlines.
Vimba ni MTN Kabode Super as you pay mpola for this smartphone. Make calls, update your WhatsApp status, watch YouTube, and Google anything under the sun with 2 GB worth of data every month for 7 months. Simply make a small deposit of 99k and pay the balance mpola. You can pay in daily, weekly, or even monthly installments while you enjoy your new phone. So what are you doing today? Visit any MTN shop near you and get the MTN Kabode Super easy.
Are you a player in the tourism sector with a struggling business following the COVID pandemic? UDB, in partnership with European Union, is providing financial assistance to businesses operating in the tourism sector. You can access subsidized loan with grants, loan with a tenor of up to 5 years, free business advisory services, and free environmental impact assessment. Visit www.udbl.co.ug/call for applications to apply. Deadline for submission is 31st October 2022 at 5 p.m. For more information, please call 0414 355 509.
Enjoy more GBs for the same price on Airtel. Shareable using 2 Gabonais. We have increased GBs across all your favorite packs. Now, 4 GB is at 10,000 shillings and 10.5 GB at 22,500 shillings, all valid for a week. For the heavy data users, enjoy 24 GB at 50,000 shillings and 50 GB at 100,000 shillings, all valid for a month. Dial *175# or use the My Airtel app to buy these and more affordable weekly and monthly data bundles on Airtel, the smartphone network.
Government of Uganda, through the Uganda Bureau of Statistics (UBOS), is undertaking nationwide census mapping aimed at providing an up-to-date list of enumeration areas and administrative units in the country ahead of the National Population and Housing Census of 2023. The UBOS field teams will be using Global Positioning Systems (GPS) for mapping all administrative infrastructure, households and other facilities such as hotels, schools, hospitals and water sources to facilitate production of the updated LC1, parish, sub-county and district area maps showing all the physical features and social amenities. The census mapping will further aid development of a countrywide data for information systems as a pillar for effective implementation of the parish development model. This is to appeal to the entire government leadership, all stakeholders and the general public to support the field teams that will be deployed across the country. Announced by Dr. Chris Ndatira Muchiza, the Executive Director and Chief Statistician. For further clarifications, please contact the Office of the Executive Director on 0755 342 128.
Meet Professor Petero. He knows something every hustler in UG is gonna love.
Oh, see. You say I was just trying to get the documents to register for Airtel Money.
You don't need the documents. You just say to register.
What's going on here?
He sells things from the shop, and behind my back, he gets the money and gives it to his girlfriends.
But just get Airtel Money Pay so that all money comes direct to your business wallet, and only you, the owner, have access to it.
Just dial *185 *10 #, and now you are on. No waiting.
Huh? This insanity is sweet. Give them also.
I only take Airtel Money Pay. It's easy and secure.
Yes, become a safer and more efficient cash-free business today. Easy.
No mixing your business money with your Kameza money. No, that's efficient.
Airtel Money. Instant, secure, borderless.
Welcome back from the break, and this is Behind the Headlines. This Wednesday, the 20th of July 2022. We are discussing the Makerere issues. We are looking at the unfortunate killing of a student, and it has got to be said, the fact is that this was a student who came to participate in the campaigns, but from another university. The student was from UCU, but was actively participating in the election at Makerere. Someone has sent a message, you know, during the break, which I thought is interesting, and this is another guild president, former Ivan Boe, who says, "I think what happened is a symptom. There are systemic and systematic problems at the university. Students have no one to learn from." You get the point. And interesting for that commentary. Mr. Dr. Kakuru. Yeah.
There is that point where the university secretary says the students told the police, "Leave us, this is our culture." I don't think the police has reached that point where they now just have to listen to what civilians are telling them. It's like if police want me tomorrow killing someone else, no, you leave me. This is my work. This is what I'm supposed to do. I think that is not defense enough. And it's not appropriate for us to tell Ugandans.
Okay. Okay, thanks a lot, Shamim. I'll come back to the secretary. But Dr. Kakuru,
yes,
starting from this point of Ivan Boe, and even from your own perspective, what you make of all these issues around you and your students and your administration, are we in the right position as a university at Makerere with everything? What's your take?
Thank you very much, Charles. And before I maybe comment about the situation and all these other issues, allow me to also extend my sincere condolences to the family that lost a son, to UCU, and to the nation at large. It's very unfortunate, extremely saddening actually. Going back to the question that you have raised, I think we need to do soul searching as an institution. My boss here, the university secretary, said that she is the 87th guild president, and meaning that there have been 86. One would be interested in understanding the environment, and during the 86, no student was lost. One would want to understand the environment under which they campaigned, the support in terms of the functioning of the structures, like the office of the dean, the office of the wardens. And then from there, as she has raised, the election, the guidelines were amended some time back.
Probably 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago?
No,
she said 2019? 20? Okay, around there. What occasioned the amendment? And why is it that after amending we see such a kind of challenges? Could it be maybe the amendments had some gaps? I don't know much about those guidelines. And I don't know much about that incident. But maybe what I'm raising are hypothetical questions to take us to a point where we need to understand this matter. Because as staff, really we are not involved in the students' matters, but these are our students, and we really want to also understand what happened. So it's, I think I would, first of all, would want to look at the guidelines, and then also troubleshoot the structures that are in place, and then be able to understand the problem. But as of now, I don't want to give a concrete position because I don't have such kind of information. Thank you.
Okay. Honorable Mapenduzi, you are a politician. Do you like, do you support, or what's your view? Let it be open-ended. What's your view about the fact that, and I think I will come back to Shamim about with the same kind of question as a follow-up, or you can actually come in after Honorable Mapinduzi. The fact that students in Makerere, I don't know in any, even in Chambogo, I think I've followed in Chambogo, that students campaign openly on party tickets. Is that a proper thing that we should be encouraging as a country? Isn't that a fear in some people that is part of the breeding of violent, altercations, when it should actually be intellectual at that level of university learning?
It's, Charles, it's really unfortunate and painful that the country has lost this young man. And I think the university should be held responsible, but also as people in authority, we should be held responsible for whatever is going on with Makerere University. Being held responsible because we have allowed such a thing to develop. When you look at the history of Makerere as an institution, and especially these cultures that are being talked about, I think the first what I would call violent protest started in the 50s. I'm told it was as a result of bad food in the 50s. It should be around 1952, around there. And then many other violent protests and strikes and all that continued. But looking back, Charles, in 2015, I think, in 2015 there was a student who I'm told was mistaken to be a thief and was beaten to death. And later on they realized it was actually a mistaken identity.
Yes.
Again in 2020, there was another student beaten and later on died. And a few days ago, we have lost another student. And so that explains why I'm saying the university should be held responsible. The university should have done much more in developing the early warning signs and dealing with this kind of situations. Because you're a serious institution, you can't allow children taken to study to just die like that. And then we say, there is a culture, we are giving freedom to these children and all that. And, Makerere University is highly regarded. But when you begin to find out what is going on, it's terrible. And for me, who is radical in my way of dealing with problematic people, I'm tempted to think that the leadership of Makerere University well, I would fire you guys.
Just like that?
Yeah, I would deal with them very toughly because there are things they're not doing correctly. I read a document, and when I read this document, I saw a document recently written by different associations, teaching body, there are other unions, and they came together. They raised very serious concerns about the university, pointing out a lot of things going on, things to do with, management issues, and so you see that this is an institution that is having a lot going on internally, and because of that, there are serious issues of internal control. So when somebody says the students are lacking somebody to mentor them, to guide them, then you know there is a bigger problem. The teaching staff have their own grievances. There are issues of how recruitment is conducted, these, and there are a lot of issues going on. So there is need for Makerere University, and my brother is here, a good friend of mine. I think you people need to very deeply reflect on a number of things. And you see, these are students. When my young sister talks, I have a mixture of excitement but also disappointment. I'm excited that I have a young sister who is coming up and tomorrow she's going to play a role in this country. But I'm also seeing a team of people who are indisciplined. Indisciplined, and they need to be tamed. That's what I see. Because you have your rights, but your rights have to go along with responsibilities. You have to be responsible. And for me to hear that, you see, the police should have done this, and these are not ordinary citizens. These, first, they are not ordinary students. They are adults. They should exercise that maturity. Secondly, this is Makerere, where we expect people who carry the kind of quality of brain that the country desires. And then our village groups are even behaving better than you. Then why are you there? Why are you in this? Why do you call yourselves university students if you cannot first of all manage yourself? So these are issues that have to be taken seriously. My brother Charles, you talk about political parties. The university has to be bold. Yes, we know that university politics prepare people to take bigger responsibilities. We have seen from you are a former guild president, now you are university secretary. There are many other people. Honorable Norbert Mao, President Mao, we just talked about him a few minutes ago. Many other people. There are quite a number of former guild presidents who are in parliament. Honorable Amere is there, Honorable Susan, there are so many. They are all there. They were nurtured by the university. So it's a good thing that the university gives an environment that prepares young people to become responsible, to become serious leaders. It's good. But the university needs to take full charge, regulate, and hold that grip. You cannot say because they should have their rights and so they do anything they want and then they end up killing themselves. And there are brigades in the university. There is GGB, there is NRA, is it NRA, there is AGB, different brigades. I spoke to a few students. Some of them actually confided that when they joined as first-year students, they were taken through some kind of indoctrination in their different halls and groupings. This militant mentality, trying to make you think that you are everything, you have arrived, you can do whatever you want, you fight for your rights and you can die for it and you are defending your whole. And this is rubbish. Brigades, you allow it to emerge and grow teeth and they begin to bite. And then there are external factors now, factors now coming in, taking advantage of these groups. The political parties that are coming in, she subscribes to NUP, somebody's NRM, it's okay. But these political parties need to respect these institutions, play a role in mentoring these students, but also need to have their limit.
That limit can only be imposed by the university.
Exactly, that is what I'm saying. So the university needs to take full responsibility. This is an institution. There are ways we deal with institutions and should not be allowed.
Okay.
While respecting, because it's also a preparatory ground. So it's not about suffocating. It's about providing an environment where you continuously nurture, guide, but lead them through the right path.
Okay.
So these are things that should be done, and it's disappointing. The university needs to, and I think the Minister of Minister of Education, the Minister of Education needs to have deeper reflection on what is going on. But also for us as leaders, I think we need to have a lot more discussion on how the university can be helped. There are serious issues, and we need to be interested. That's what I can say.
Isabella, what's your take about it, this whole mess at the university, leading to death?
First of all, let's say that that's not the best way to celebrate 100 years of the university, given that Makerere is actively getting ready to celebrate, I think, in October. This death and how the entire election situation in Makerere has turned out sheds a very bad light, you know, on the university. But that notwithstanding, over the years, Makerere has been the pulse of the country. And so if we want to measure the political pulse, usually Makerere has been the place where we go and test the pulse from. Makerere is also a little version of Uganda. And so when we discuss the violence in Makerere, when we discuss how elections are run in Makerere, we cannot escape from the fact that a lot of the things that we are discussing here are very similar to what we discussed in the 2021 elections. You know? And when we talk about apportioning blame, Yusuf was talking about the guild president taking responsibility. The guild president was saying, University Council take responsibility. I think another category of people that need to take responsibility in this conversation are the political parties. Because the political parties heavily influence the political actors in the universities. They heavily influence them in regard to financing, for example, because I know that I think this is one of the most expensive elections that has happened in Makerere. I do not know what Shamim has said, but that is what I have heard, with voter buying going for as high as 100,000 shillings, you know. And so,
as in paying the students to vote for it.
Yes. And so if you have a situation like that where on average potential candidates were giving away approximately 5,000 shillings, that's already a recipe for disaster, because you have a very huge income inequality to talk about, you know. And so the death was very unfortunate, but I believe that the death and the violence could easily have been avoided. Yusuf talks about the betrayal of trust, but going away from the trust conversation in regard to the election, maybe we need to interrogate the trust relationship between the guild and the university council in this particular government, but also in the previous governments. You know, I believe that, and I'm not justifying the students not trusting the university administration, but I'm saying that the university administration has not given the students very much to work with in regard to trust. I believe that the high-handedness, for example, of the Vice Chancellor when it came to the suspensions of students, you know, did not help this trust situation at all. And so when you come to a precarious conversation as the elections, I think demanding for trust, whereas it's noble, it's difficult to ask for trust from a relationship that has been already broken severely. But I also want to agree with the doctor, no, actually it was Honorable Mapenduzi, who talked about looking at the potential risks, and if that is something that the university is actively looking into and analyzing and building scenarios around you know, around violence. Because at a national scale, for example, we build scenarios around violence and how to address them. I'm not sure if that is a culture that the university is taking on. But in regard to how we attempt to deal with this, today I'm sitting in for Sarah Birete, and about 2 weeks ago, she was elected to the King's College Budo election. They have an electoral commission, and they took it away. They invited parents to sit on that electoral commission, and maybe the university might want to be open to the possibility of opening up the people who manage elections beyond the students, because we also must acknowledge the fact that we live in an environment where, one, political discourse is heavily, what is the word? It's heavily curtailed. And so in a world where under normal circumstances elections would have been a battle of the minds, a battle of arguments, because we have not grown the culture of debate, because we have not grown the culture of listening to each other, because we have not grown the culture of negotiation, we resort to violence. And that is not something, we can't blame the university, we can't blame the students. It is structural, that civic education is not as common as it was in the past, that political education is not as vested in as it was in the past. And it's no wonder that when it comes to university elections, we have a breed of young people who do not understand basic politics and governance. Thank you very much.
Unfortunately.
Just to add to what she said, sorry, if I can, yes.
Just 1 minute.
She's right, because again, looking broadly at this, you then realize that what happens outside with our own politics, because what happens outside later on start to shape a lot of these things that are happening in these institutions.
And that's why I actually thought that the comment by Ivan Boye was interesting, that we have nothing to learn from the elders. And I mean, without saying much, because you know, the guys have never agreed that this is what should be even at a national level. We know that at national level, almost every election we have had, there are people who have lost lives. The last one, there were over 50.
I don't know whether the countries.
And we are in other countries as well. And someone was making a joke about it. And when the Chiranda and team decided to suspend, someone said, why the hell is council suspending an election? Did they suspend elections at national level when people died?
Charles,
yes,
just one thing.
Yeah.
Now, as the management of that university, the public entrusts us with running that institution. And just to make it clear, we do not run away from responsibility of anything that happens. But maybe it is also fair to have a conversation about the complexity of running Makerere University, given the widespread public interest in that university. I'll give one example of regulating our students, disciplining our students, and the suspensions which have been heavily misrepresented in a lot of the discourse. What management has been trying to do over the years is to put in place regulations and actions which deal with these kinds of problems. But then that's when you get a barrage of all institutions. Where my boss, Honorable Penduzi, sits, they will invite you and tell you why you're suspending students, even when you have a clear case of indiscipline against some students.
You know, who said, someone said, what? Heavy is the head that carries a crown.
Yeah, a crown.
So you have to shoulder it.
So you do that, you see that, and then you see everything, and the image of the university tends to be defined by that. The Honorable just referred to a document, for example. Yeah. They have, the document you read, sir, is not the first of its kind. There have been so many documents, almost every day. They have been investigated by the IGG, by Parliament, by the police, by the State House Anti-Corruption. All these allegations which are made are full of a lot of factual inaccuracies. If you look at, for example, the most recent document, which I suppose you read, which is circulating on a lot of the tabloids, you see that people sit down, create a story, write about it, put their signatures, circulate it in all the offices which matter, get stamps on it, and then start sharing that on social media, and then the university is guilty already because some people have sat down. Even when you look in, you know, somebody will come here and tell you, staff are not happy. And you say, we are 3,000 of us. You hold a meeting, you sit 15 people, you make a decision, and you say, we staff are not happy. You write something, you sign 5 of you, you circulate, and then out of the blue, management is guilty, so we have to move around. Then the next thing which comes, a lot of investigation is, we appear before committees of Parliament, which is our supervisory board, and we are happy to appear there. And after some 4 or 5 months, everybody finds out it was factually inaccurate. So I think one of the main problems we get, those of us who are charged with the responsibility of managing this institution, is that everything you try to do internally attracts a lot of intervention from outside, but most of that intervention is informed by disinformation. Because of the interests within, people create a story, and that story is followed. Now, the second issue is when you are trying to deal with a situation involving students at a university, you want to involve them as much as possible. That is why students sit on the council, on the Senate, and Parliament also foresaw that and put it in the law. And also every other important process that takes place at that university, we try to have the students in it and make sure we move along with them. But there are certain issues which have come up and kind of been overwhelming, like you talk about the influence of external organizations, including political parties in university affairs. The other day we had students come and organize an assembly next to the library. They were requested to move their assembly to somewhere else. They refused. When the police intervened and dispersed it, and some students who were ringleaders in this organization were suspended, the whole country was up in arms saying how the vice chancellor is high-handed, is not giving students the space. So we want to implement these rules, and we are going to implement these rules for sure. But the people who are churning the disinformation about what happens in the university seem to be winning in the eyes of the public, to the extent that what management is trying to do to keep the students safe is twisted, is misrepresented. I shouldn't be here today, but I am aware that if you don't come to spaces like this more often, sometimes information comes and the university is not getting the opportunity to...
Can I say something?
No, not now. First,
the other time you interrupted, I kept quiet.
From you.
Yes, it's me. Actually, Charles, you know, when I requested you to give you time,
I was speak after Honorable Mapendo. No. And you took it to Isabel. I kept quiet.
You can speak, then I can. Charles, when I asked you to talk, I started, you came in, and you just...
No, I gave you 1 minute, which was one which you actually took about 90
I used 20 seconds. I used 20.
You took 90 seconds, which was... but
that's right.
Dr. Kakuru, then Shamim first.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
When we entered this room, I thought we had we were going to discuss with the university secretary.
He's here.
But we are discussing with a politician.
Why? That's a big statement.
Yes. Reason being, when you come here and you address issues in passing, and you want to say that, for example, there is a document that is that has inaccuracies only, when actually it is touching the soul of an institution, I begin to wonder. Reason being, first of all, the document was written by leaders. These are not people who imposed themselves. By the time leaders write a document, it's not themselves.
But
These
they
are
have been
issues-
writing
these
all
are
the
issues
time,
that
and these
emerge.
things have been proved factually
Gentlemen,
I gave
can you
you-
tell-
I
can
gave
you
you a
tell
chance-
my-
I gave
can
you a
tell
chance to
my
speak.
viewers, can you tell my
Yes.
audience
Yes.
that the document I, in the case of the secretary, I'm referring to, was written by this group, this group, this group, or in the case of Dr. Kakuru, can you say the document that the secretary is referring to were documents that we wrote as Mwasa, the other group wrote as this association, the other group wrote as maybe guild president, you know, guild administration, and so they were factual. So that then, because, you know, putting the identity to the documents being talked about gives it the credibility that we so wish.
Thank you, Charles. The document probably that my US is referring to is a document that was written by a joint staff association. That is Makerere University Academic Staff Association. That is Makerere University Administrative Staff Association. And the National Union of Education Institutions, that is the NUE, Makerere University branch. And this was during a joint association executives meeting. And unless otherwise, I beg to be guided. This document underlined key issues that regard the functioning of the university. For example, where we have very many acting persons, and when we raise them, it's as if it is very bad to raise them. Mr. University Secretary here is a beneficiary of acting. They leave an office to fall vacant. After falling vacant, the CEO, that is the Vice Chancellor, identifies one person. They put him in that office, him or her, and then they work backwards to regularize. Let me give you an example. The office of the Dean of Students fell vacant before it was advertised. Instead of saying, we know that the Dean of Students is going to retire on this date, let's advertise a position. From there, you wait, the dean exits, you identify someone in acting capacity, you place them there as a CEO. And then they act for a few months, you regularize through appointments board. You go down, recruit someone very new in the system. After immediately after confirmation, they are elevated to become a deputy dean of students. And then from there, they are telling us they have guidelines they develop for implementation. Do guidelines implement themselves? Guidelines are implemented by experienced persons who have seen it, and they have done all this, and they go through the orientation, the induction, and they implement this. When you look at all the issues that we are raising, when they are being pushed, when they are being neglected as if they are full of inaccuracies, when they are coming from the leaders, it tells you what is happening. Thank you.
Charles,
Okay,
I need 30 seconds to give an example of these inaccuracies I am talking about.
Do you want Shamim to also
I just need 30
submit
seconds.
so that you can just pick them
No,
together?
only 30 seconds.
Yes. Okay, Shamim,
My
just
colleague
concede
here,
for
my
now
colleague
and-
here says we brought somebody and made him Deputy Dean of Students. There is no Deputy Dean of Students in Makerere now. There is no one acting in that position now. If you know of one, I will be happy to learn from you. But that's the example. You know, people construct imaginations in their minds and then they use the offices they occupy to write something and sign it, and they want that to be the truth. And you know, Dr.
So
Kakuru,
when they
what
sign
you
these
say,
documents, they are signing as who?
No, but I'm giving an example. You said there is somebody acting as a deputy dean of students. There is none. So you are telling a
There is
lie
an
on national television.
But
you said I am a beneficiary.
There is a deputy dean.
No, it's not there.
So
You are
Mr.
saying-
I am saying
Mr.
this, and the
Rivan
guild
has
is saying
never
this, and the
acted.
guild
Has never acted.
You deny. We have said
No,
this.
let me give you an answer.
Now this is the guild president.
No,
I'm going,
this is
he's
the
telling
person
you
we've
the
gone
truth.
No, no,
in
no,
the
no, no.
absence
Does
of
the
that
guild
dean.
president, let me ask,
No.
does the guild president sit on the council?
Yes, it does. But let me
And
give you another
isn't the
example.
So you
council
continue
the highest?
deceiving the public.
Okay,
and we are saying-
let me ask. Okay, you will follow. We shall follow. We want, and gentlemen and lady, the most important thing I always, tell my guests, this is not so much about you.
Yes.
Yes.
It is about the public out there. And
Exactly.
they are watching you. They are following you. They want to get the facts. And some people, now, that deputy or who exists or not exists is also watching, surprisingly.
Yes.
Now, so we have to tell the truth.
And
We
Charles,
have- we- you understand?
Charles, I am the university secretary.
Yes.
Now, he says I benefited from acting. I have ever acted, but
Thank you.
Yes, but my job was advertised. Dr. Kakuru, no one stopped you from applying if you so wished. It was advertised. People who were, I was never regularized. The position was advertised. Everybody who wanted, including you, was free to apply. The appointments board shortlisted many people. They conducted interviews. I came out successful. You didn't apply. It's not my problem.
Thank you
So
very
for
much.
you, but let me
Thank you very
finish.
much.
Let me finish.
Yeah.
The issue they are saying of deputy dean, Mr. Rivan, you are talking about is acting principal warden. You want? I can call now and they send somebody will go to office and get his appointment letter for that acting position. He has never been appointed to be acting deputy dean of students for a minute.
So why would
But when I tell you about this information, these guys create a story and publish it
but I
around
think-
and even have a former council member doing it.
Gentlemen,
There is something. There is something we have to clarify.
Wait, Dr. Kakuru,
There is something we have to
Dr.
clarify
Kakuru,
also.
just hold it there.
Yes.
I had promised Shamim,
Yes.
and I just asked a question that I wanted Mr. Chiranda to respond to, and he did, which is that, is the guild president a member of the council? The answer was yes, and I wanted to follow it up and ask, isn't the council the highest management body of the university? Isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Now, is it possible between the two of you, and I want to start with Shamim, that Shamim does not know the positions that exist for which council is responsible?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Charles. Now that the questions, I think, are now like 5 or something. But yes, I think this is now a situation where we have things in writing being different from what is on ground. That, of course, the US is going to come and clearly tell us we don't have that position, it is not there. But in actual sense, when you go on ground, it is there, and this person recognizes himself as the deputy dean. And students have actually now believed that he's the deputy dean. So you can't say that we are lying because this is what is on ground. So what you should be questioning is how is it actually happening, but not shying away from the facts.
I clear another
even
point.
you yourself
No,
started-
Mr. Chiranda, wait, give room, let her speak.
Exactly. So these are things that that we have an administration that wants to shy away from facts, that we have things that are on ground, but you do not want to accept it. And the best you tell us is that there is complexity in managing. But the problem is the micromanagement at this level. That University Council alone has its duties that it's supposed to do, but it becomes worse when you want to go down to the fact that you want to be the implementers of everything. That there is micromanagement that the office of the Vice Chancellor must approve for everything to be done. So I think now these are the actual problems that we should be addressing at this particular point in time. You raise an issue where students are having an assembly at the Freedom Square. First and foremost, it's the Freedom Square. I think we can't remove the fact that it's freedom. It's the Freedom
So you
Square.
should go there without any regulation.
No, because what is supposed, because I don't know of any guideline that says the students that would need to meet somewhere must seek permission from the Vice Chancellor. Maybe if you told me that they were supposed to notify the police, that one I would accept. But then this is not a head prefect of a university. That for whatever we are going to do, that if I'm going to have a meeting with class coordinators, if I'm going to have a meeting with other ministers, I have to first seek for permission. No. And I don't see what wrong they did in having a general assembly.
You see now the problem I was talking about.
No, what I'm saying here is the level of intolerance, that we have a kind of system where you're not allowed to do whatever it is. You can regulate, but then is it allowed to have such kind of management where the Vice Chancellor or his personal assistant is in WhatsApp groups following up what students are doing? We had a situation where students were suspended over WhatsApp messages. So these are things that we need to address. That while, yes, we may say the university has to regulate and do some things, I think there are some extremes that are being crossed. That we can't have you in your time and you record over 200 suspensions of students. And over what? I think we need to go back and also analyze. And then these suspensions are indefinite. The people are suspended and they don't know for how long they are suspended. If it were punishment, yes, I understand you're going to suspend me, but for how long? People are suspended under the mercies of the Vice Chancellor. They are not brought to before the disciplinary committee.
Shamim, tell the truth.
That is the truth. That is the truth. That is wait.
But everyone is telling lies.
No, guys.
Yes, you don't say one year is telling lies.
Can I come in? I'm more neutral.
I wish I had requested you people to come with the files with some of you.
No, in the 2019 strike, they suspended students over WhatsApp messages. At least that one, I'm sure.
Please give us names.
We look at the likes of Frank Wambali. He was suspended over such.
In the 2019 what strike? You said strike and you said what?
Okay. Dr. Kakuru, you were really
just
pushing.
1 minute.
Yes.
One single second.
Yeah.
But let Dr. Kakuru tell us, is there an acting deputy dean of students?
My dear.
Face the camera and tell the nation. Please,
dear,
I request you to.
Hold on. My dear Mr. US, I've been in this university slightly longer than your tenure. And I am aware of all the contexts. I want to, you have just given an example that your job was advertised. I want us to be given a chance maybe tomorrow to pick an advert that they used to recruit your predecessor and the advert they used to recruit you. We compare.
Fine.
Then we shall start from there.
Fine.
And particularly we look at the years of experience.
Very fine. I am okay with it.
Okay.
I am okay with it. But Charles,
yes.
I would like to request Dr. Kakuru to face the camera and tell the nation if Makerere has a deputy dean of students. Please put the camera to Dr. Kakuru.
You see,
no, please answer my question. Is there a deputy dean of students at Makerere? Or somebody acting in that position?
Listen to me. If you have asked a question, give me a chance to reply. When I raised this matter, the outgoing guild told you clearly that in practice, we have an acting deputy dean. This gentleman wants to deceive the public, but even the students who report to him directly are telling him And he's asking
Dr. Kakuru, you wrote it in your document. Is there an acting deputy dean of students at Makerere?
Let me come in at this point.
You answer that
Let
question.
me come in at this
if
point.
You're not
They have
lying.
asked you,
no, you answer if you're not lying.
They have asked you what
is
the river
acting
doing.
principal warden. I cleared that
Gentlemen.
appointment. I signed on the clearance of it. It is acting principal warden. So for you to create lies.
He's acting in two positions.
And
Don't we know?
Okay,
Don't we know?
okay. I know that because you don't have any documents here, you will not agree.
I can go
But
for
also because you are coming from different offices, you again will not agree. The person I would rely on is the student, and the student leader at that. And the student leader is saying there is a case of, actually she is insinuating that there is a case of misrepresentation because someone
is masquerading
as...
We can look at that. We can look at that. But the leader of the staff association to write and sign.
Just a minute. Mr. Chiranda, isn't a dean's office the one that deals directly with the students?
Yes, it is.
Then would the student leader not know that there is someone who we are dealing with and passes for this?
I would be interested to know when Mr. Rivan ever dealt with you in that function.
Requisitions to him.
Requisitions of what?
Thank you.
Requisitions of what?
Now he's here denying me. He's just denying my statement.
Honorable Mapenduzi, in 1 minute, we need to move faster.
And the accounting officer is denying when requisitions are being taken to
I sign.
Are you too Mapenduzi? Because I'm told. Yeah, so you need to have some order. Okay. Yes. What we are seeing, the kind of interactions, the
Keep
two
it
of
faster, because time is now going.
Yes, that's right. The kind of interactions you two are having is a clear sign that you are faced with a much bigger problem.
Something needs to be done.
And something needs to be done, because if your staff are writing letters and raising issues, and then, so I see some serious disconnect. You need to sit as a team, harmonize that. But also what I want to say is that these issues of violence and then somebody's killed, and you see, Charles, we have a bigger problem. I think it's partly a system problem in this country. It's only in Uganda where you find even primary school children strike. There's a primary school where children went on strike and they destroyed a primary school. And then there are so many secondary schools in this country where students go on strike, destroy dormitories or dining hall or destroying classrooms. And you wonder whether people have brain. So we are dealing with a much bigger problem. It's not just Makerere University. There is a culture that has developed in this country, and so the people responsible, starting from Minister of Education, need to know there is a crisis, there is a problem, and something has to be done. That is one. Number two, I had started talking about what happens externally, right from within our communities, the kind of politics we practice, the kind of violence that we encourage. And these students come from the communities. So when they go to universities, they think that is the practice. So you have said they come from the community. Mm-hmm. Someone called Joseph Asutai from Soroti says the university is a product and a mirror of our society. Exactly.
Ugandan parliamentarians flex fists and injure themselves badly in parliament.
That was some
Is it
years back.
surprising that this happens at the university? I want to add, presidential elections, people die. Is it therefore different from what is happening at the university? Primary elections, we saw of NRM, was it in Zimbabwe? Mm-hmm. People fought badly and died. Was it in Teso? where there were deaths in primary elections. The issue, therefore, is not an apology. The issue is, what is the solution to this mess that is happening in the country?
Exactly. Well, so I am looking at this broad perspective where our politics has gone wrong, and there is need to begin to, at political party level, each political party, and what does a political party gain from creating a militant kind of mentality? What does a political party gain from supporting an idea of a brigade? Whether yellow brigade or red brigade or blue brigade and all that. It doesn't work. It actually doesn't happen in a civilized society.
Okay.
All right? So we need to start from that angle.
Okay.
And my brother, university secretary, you have a duty to make sure your house is in order. And also when you hear my brother, Dr. Kakuru.
Yes.
Yes, Dr. Kakuru, and I think there is a bigger problem with the university in terms of management issues and controls and how you deal with interest and conflicts, and there are a lot of things that needs to be streamlined.
Corrected
and we are not going to plead, because as a country we look up to you. So go and sort out this. When we send children to you, they have to be safe. They don't need to die. And so when you create an environment that a student dies, it's painful to the country. And so you have to take responsibility with your team, not you as an individual, but sort out the mess.
Yeah, good. That's a good appeal. We're going to come back now to, we need to wind up, but there are messages that have come, and I cannot leave out the audience out there. Philip from Loibok in Moroto. Philip Loibok from Moroto says, good evening to you all. My concern is really to know how much, how much is DP going to get from Philip? We don't know whether there is money in this.
Now that one is thinking money.
This one is thinking money. Philip, we haven't known from any of the parties whether the discussion was about money. But since you have asked, we will endeavor to get back to you on what exactly happened. So keep following behind the headlines. You will get the answer in the subsequent shows. And then someone from, this person has not put their name, says, thanks for the show, Charles. Please do be surprised. Wait for the next cabinet reshuffle. Honorable Mao will be on the cabinet list. This is like what is happening in Kenya. Now Raila is going to succeed Uhuru. Thanks. Oh, his name is Ken from Nakulabi. Ken, I want to wait and see whether your prophecy comes true, and then I will believe you. For now, this is speculation. And then John Dirangu Gichohi from Nairobi says, hi Uganda, this is a very viable debate and an eye-opener towards the transformation of Ugandan development. I am John Dirangu Gichohi from Nairobi, Kenya. Thanks, John. Keep watching. Then another person, this one is Matua Sulaiman from Madi Okolo, the other side of Western Uganda in West Nile. He says, when a lion is dining together with the deer, you know that the lion is no longer the king of the jungle, whatever that means. Then someone else here says, good evening. I am Ochakachon David from Mukono. Thanks for the show. In my view, it wasn't a surprise to see Mr. Museveni finally signing with Mr. Mao a permanent deal. Honorable Mao started writing a lot of paragraphs against NUP. So then there is another message here. Shamim's presence at the show, to me, is a sign of approval and endorsement to the NUP Guild presidential candidate. And
now they are bringing their politics.
Timothy Teng, I will not read your messages which are disrespectful. The rest that followed, I will not consider them. And next time, please write messages which are respectful and worthy of discussion on a national forum like this. We don't want to get involved in your politics. Then there is someone called Nicholas Tayebwa from Chambogo University who says, talking about Makerere, its cultures and politics, I don't know why the administration cannot look into this. People outside are asking why Makerere at peak for violence, yet it stands as the father of academic excellence in the country. Then someone is saying, hi Charles, are these staff of Makerere University the epitome of knowledge? Then another one says, Charles, sorry for what happened at Makerere University about the UCU student, but I only give a piece of advice to the Electoral Commission of Makerere University to always stipulate proper guidelines for campaigning at university, and let the university not totally leave the electoral progression, be left to the Students' Electoral Council. For me, I think a certain level of negligence is what happened. This is called Moshi Sultan. I will read just two more. There are too many messages. I can't read all. I like Honorable Mapenduzi's analytical view on the cooperation framework between NRM and DP political party. An interesting political ramification in Uganda is in the offing. Watch this space. And this is Dr. Constantine Bitwaiki, Kampala. Finally, the secretary, Mr. Chiranda, someone here is hard on you, says, the secretary of Makerere University doesn't know his work. If LC won elections, people need a lot of security and organization and control. What of these young ones? This person is called Muzungu Ronald Ndeje. There are so many messages. Unfortunately, I cannot read all of them. I must apologize. We started late. We should have read them earlier on. We are going to come to an end, and I'm going to give each of you 1 minute each to round up the discussion. Starting with Mr. Chiranda, you had wanted to respond to some of the issues that came up, but going forward, one of those things that people are trying to bring out a lot in terms of solving the problem of violence in elections, people are suggesting, why don't you do away with, as a university, and we shall all support you, this whole thing of, Shamim says, I am a NUP candidate at a university. Then Yusuf will say, I am this candidate. Another person will say, I am this candidate for a political party. And then you find the kind of narrative from outside the university are taken fully into the university, and you cannot stop it by that time. Why don't you just say, as a policy, yes, you will be supported by your party, in a nuanced manner, but you will not like wear their colors? Or would that be against the constitution? Would that be?
And as I conclude, so just to respond to that issue, the council has put up a select committee to look at the violence which happened, at the guild operations, and then advise on the way forward. And one of the things this committee is looking at is the participation of external actors, including political parties. Luckily, this committee is being headed by a professor of peace and conflict studies. And we are sure that all these nuances are going to be reflected on very well. They are working so fast because also the council is committed to make sure that student leadership and student political life is restored as fast as possible. So we are waiting for the outcome of that committee. The other two issues, just as I wind up my time, is I agree with the guidance from Honorable Mapendus. We have to have a conversation with our staff. We are having that conversation, we talk, but if that conversation is going to be productive, the facts must be given primacy. There is a very big challenge. This problem of disinformation, even for the whole of government. I think we live in a very complicated era that somebody states a fact there, a story there, even if you come with evidence and with a fact, as long as they talk more than you, that becomes the truth, and that's what you're judged on. So we will continue these conversations, but we definitely also have to invest more in putting out the facts. And lastly, it's unfortunate, I go back to the point that my sister Isabella makes, that we shouldn't be celebrating 100 years this way. There are a lot of fantastic things happening at that university. The transformation Makerere has gone through over the last 5 years is gigantic. If you look at our research output, the publication is from our professors, the work the university scientists have done either in managing COVID, responding to HIV, AIDS, and malaria, in responding to the food crisis in the country, even in answering everyday economic and governance questions, is what the university should be known for. These things are happening, they are big, but because of these challenges, they tend to be overshadowed. So I am very hopeful, Charles, that the next time you are inviting me or any other person from the university, we will be talking about Dr. Kakuru's research outputs, which are there, and not talking about these issues which should not be consuming the space.
Good, and I thank you for that, especially the 100-year celebrations. You reminded me that there is actually a big function you have this week.
On Friday.
On Friday, and it is the alumni homecoming dinner, and I pray that I'm there, since I have got an invitation from the Vice Chancellor. It will be at 5 p.m., so guys, go and support Makerere University. Celebrating 100 years. Is it free entry?
As long as you have that card.
Yes. But we are supposed to contribute to the university as alumni.
Yes. The VC has put up a call for the alumni to contribute to the university.
Why don't you want to tell us? They are listening.
No, the dinner card has been going for Shamim. You were 350,000.
350,000
Uganda shillings, and
a table at 5 million.
A table at 5 million, and you will be exposed the best of the service Makerere is able to offer.
For this particular dinner, For this particular dinner, the guest of honor is the Right Honorable Thomas Tayewa, Deputy Speaker of the Parliament of Uganda. The guest speaker is the Honorable Dr. Eli Karohanga, Chairman, Private Sector Foundation, Uganda. So guys, alumni especially and well-wishers of Makerere University, kindly go and support Makerere University, you know, celebrating 100 years. I will endeavor, I will try my best. I know they are competing functions, but I will try my best to pass by and contribute to our university. Dr. Kakuru, 1 minute.
Thank you, Charles, once again. I want to partly agree with my secretary, that we need conversations. But I want to add this voice that we need honest conversations. Not only conversations, but we need honest conversations. When we raise these issues, instead of brushing them as being unfactual the most important thing is to look at them. But also we need to look at our policies. Let this be a university that is guided by its own policies. When we raise these issues, actually we are developing a very dangerous culture that people who raise critical questions are looked at as indisciplined, and those who accept to see injustice and systems break down are being looked at as good people. The trend should change. This is an academic institution. For example, the issues we are raising. We have an office of the Vice Chancellor falling vacant in the next 1.5 months. When you raise it, it's a very big concern, but they want to play it under the carpet. And we are saying, look, the Vice Chancellor, for example, does not qualify as per the Human Resources Manual that we have. And actually, even the contract that he has was awarded irregularly. But when you raise these issues, people say, you see, you know, you are a bad person. Let's be honest and have honest conversations so that we can have a university that is celebrating 100 years, but it cherishes academic freedom, but at the same time, we give accountability to the public. It's not about raising these issues and we play them under the carpet and then we sweep them under the carpet and we leave it at that. Let's be honest and discuss these issues, and when we present them and we say, please constitute a search committee, you constitute a search committee as per the law and the policy. I submit.
Thank you so much. Honorable Shamim.
Yes. Thank you so much. For me, it's a question of involvement of the student leaders, basically, because after the unfortunate incident that happened, we saw measures being taken, which included the suspension of student guild, students caretaker government, associations, and at this very moment you find that the students at any one point would need leaders, that we need people who can speak and represent us. But then you find that the University Council is looking at having a review of the Students' Guild Constitution, but then the same very council does not have the mandate to touch that constitution. It is supposed to be amended, or whatever you may wish to make any changes. It is very clear that it has to be the Students' Guild or the GRC. And it's clear on the constitution of the council that there shall be 2 representatives of the students' body. But as we speak, council goes ahead to meet and make such resolutions and suggestions without involving the students. And we are forced to believe that whatever it is doing going forward is actually illegal. And that is something that we have all these small things happening that people want to just put under the carpet and say, no, you hooligans, you're not supposed to come here. You hooligans, you have nothing to say to us. And I think that is something that needs to be addressed moving forward. And people need to take responsibility for the different things and for whatever they're supposed to do, as the students, the administration, the police, the management. Everyone needs to take responsibility for what they are doing. But then I believe that everyone should have an avenue to actually express themselves. And I thought I should talk about the issue of political parties. I believe political parties didn't just come yesterday. They have been there since time immemorial. We saw the late Mutebiri is going to exile, and so for a very long time we cannot really separate university politics from national political spaces. And that is maybe an argument for another day, and we need to accept that people have the right to associate, and you can't take that away from them. And the role that these political parties are playing in shaping the leaders themselves, much as, yes, we may want to analyze to what extent do they actually come into affecting these political spaces in university, but then we can't say that they are completely separate issues, because you find at the end of the day, whatever happens in the university has a political undertone just before it. And while we look at this issue, I would advise that we look at it squarely, that we can't shy away from the resources that NRM invests in these races. We can't shy away from the fact that there are always these numberless cars making rounds around the university. But then also we can't shy away from the fact that as opposition, maybe for many of us, it is an avenue for them to keep recruiting and getting new people moving into the party, considering that these are university students. And yeah, I think, and most importantly, it's the fact that the university administration needs to respect the academic freedoms of these students at the end of the day.
Brilliant, brilliant. I'm impressed. But it will go back to the secretary and the university administration, especially. She raises a very, very fundamental point, that yes, there is a crisis you're trying to solve as the administration, but the crisis is involving stakeholders. And then you have thrown away the stakeholders, the primary stakeholders, in my view, the students. You have locked them out, and you are in a room discussing their fate. It's unheard of. You really, I think as the council, I think Yusuf, I know you are a secretary to the council, right? You really need to rethink that. Everybody is watching, and you know, like you were worried about inaccuracies. I learned that you don't have to worry about lies. They say, there is someone who said, as surely as day follows night, the lies might run fast, but the truth will eventually reach there and occupy a bigger space. So you shouldn't worry about people who spread lies. As long as you bring out the truth and you are fair enough, like the issue of representation of students,
Charles,
in that organization, in that crisis settlement, you need to reconsider at least their representatives coming back to sit in that meeting.
The point which Her Excellency raises is very important, is very fundamental. When the council committee first met, and I wanted to read the section where she's saying the council can't do, and they agreed with you, it is section 69(1) of the Universities and Tertiary Institutions Act. It reads as follows: there may be a student association in each public university by whatever name called, which shall be constituted in accordance with the statutes made for that purpose by the University Council, except that the governance of the student association shall be guided by a constitution drawn by the students' body of the university, which shall be in conformity with the statutes of the University Council. So, the committee has already seen that. They have gone back to the council, and we expect by tomorrow it will have demarcated exactly what the council will handle and what the students will handle and how. Good. And secondly, in all the terms of reference, the committee has agreed on a very extensive consultative process. And everywhere they have said students, 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 students. Good. So this process, although now it is appearing like led by non-students, in the end, this is going to be a student-led process.
Okay, good, brilliant. Charles, that is important.
Can I just say something?
Oh, yes.
Because much as you talk about the others, I think we must read the Act as whole, and Section 38 is very clear, and it is very clear that there shall be, while it describes the constitution.
But you see, Section 38 is problematic if you read it with the Guilty Constitution as it is now. Because Section 38 talks about 2 student representatives in the council.
Yes.
Now, your constitution says the guilty president shall be one of student representatives to council. The guilty vice president shall be the other student representative to council. It does not provide for any other student representative to council other than the guild president and the vice president. So if we follow your constitution and section 38 to the letter, even the presence of the speaker and deputy speaker in council would be illegal.
But the same constitution says there shall be a guild caretaker government
But
where the speaker and the deputy speaker will assume the roles that were initially assumed by the guild president.
No, it's not in your constitution. Actually, the
It
chairperson of the caretaker government is the dean of students.
Yes, but the speaker and the deputy speaker at this very point in time are the acting president and the vice president.
No, there is no acting president.
But also,
in your constitution.
That's now,
briefly,
I see.
briefly, when the university and other tertiary institutions act clashes with the constitution of the guild, the university and other tertiary institutions takes over. In other words,
So
one would...
irrespective of who
But
it
then the
is,
problem there is that
So,
UOSHA says 2 student representatives in council, one of whom shall be female, elected by the students themselves. In other words, the students are supposed to elect 2
Yes,
council
then you do
representatives.
that, but
So
not
in
to
that
throw out
case,
the
the students have never had a
representatives
representative
Mr.
in council.
Chiranda, for us as Ugandans outside, it is clear that the student's voice is not in that room.
suffocated.
That is determining the fate of, is determining their fate.
And the
It is
council has-
unfair.
The committee has agreed on that,
It
and
is,
they are sorting
it is
it out.
wrong.
Yes.
And you need to reconsider
Yes.
whatever method or approach you use to get those 2 student representatives in the room to listen or participate
And
in
the
a discussion about their fate.
And Charles
Do it
agreed, and the committee is
Okay.
looking at that as a matter of urgency.
Thank you. The
Yes.
law is, you can look at it, analyze it, interpret it, but you guys are bringing in politics. It should
Thank
not
you.
be.
Yes.
Honorable Mapenduzi. Now for you, if you and Isabella, 1 minute each, let's wind up. We close.
For me as a parent, I look at it differently. And a lot of what they are talking about to me do not make sense. But because we are talking about Makerere University, it's important to hear all this. 3 things. 1, the university now needs to make sure, fortunately you have a select committee that you have instituted. This select committee has to do a thorough job.
They will.
And yes, they have to do a good job and put back the university on the right path. There are a lot of issues, and most of these issues have been allowed by the university to grow, and they're becoming a bit uncontrollable. So the moment you streamline that, then you can start to build a new culture. And my young sister here needs to, and Dr. Kakoro, there is need for all the key players in the university to play a role in supporting this process, because it's harmful to all of you, to all of us. So there is need to support this process, so we don't lose life again, so we don't have this bad image again, because that is not what Makerere should be known for. So you have that. Number 2, there is need to streamline political parties' activities in the university. Yes, political parties help in nurturing young people like Shamim and many others. It's okay. But these political parties have to be engaged. They need to respect institutions and know how much a political party can cause damage to an institution. And so there must be limits. We have to regulate, and there should be no compromise about it. The space is so wide out, and I don't see why we should take too much politics in the university and allow the... But as we do that, it should not be selective. It should not just be targeting a specific group of people. The university should set standards, clear rules, and that is it. But you don't allow a ruling party to take dominance, or you don't allow the other group to, and then each group begins to radicalize and all that, and that kind of extremism has to be completely eradicated from the university. Okay. So let's set clear rules and everyone has to comply, and the university has to take charge. But I also have a problem, Charles, with too much freedom. I can explain that if you're interested.
No, how can you have it?
You know, if you
want to say maybe, and you know, irresponsible freedom.
Exactly. Thank you.
But not too much.
I needed you.
Who is supposed to measure the amount of freedom someone else should have?
Now, let me tell you
because the amount of freedom someone should have is dependent upon so many variables. Maybe
the too much freedom I'm talking about is the kind of freedom my brother Shiranda,
Dr. Kakuru.
No. The university secretary talked about. There is
Mr. Chiranda.
Yes, the university secretary. You allow students to campaign even in the night. That's bad. That's too much freedom. So there are many things that
irresponsibility.
There are many things that the university should just say no to, and has to be respected. And sometimes you have to take very tough decisions. At the start, people will criticize you, but you owe us a duty. So the criticism and how some people look at it is not the thing. Yours is about setting an institution that works, that is respected, that there are rules that should be followed, and that is it.
Thank you very much. Finally, Isabella.
I will close quoting Yusuf. In one of his statements, he said that one of the aspirations of the university is to have a truly free space for students academically, and you know. And I believe that to be able to achieve that, one, it's important that the relationships are worked on from the conversations that we have observed with the people on this side. There's a clear breakdown in relationship between the council and the university staff, but also between the council and the guild, if we're to take this as the representation. And so I think it's important that the university is critically looking at strengthening relationships, because you all need each other. The second aspect is around the hues of impunity that I seemed to feel in the conversations that we had here, you know. And I will not get into the detail of that, but it's to say that one, it's important that there's mutual respect amongst the different groups, and mutual respect also comes in the manner in which we communicate, the tones that we use. That people will hear what you're saying, but they will feel the way that you're saying it, and I think that is what they go home with. And so it's important that we are dealing with the hues of impunity broadly. But that notwithstanding, I believe that we should all celebrate, like Yusuf said, 100 years of existence, because all of us have, in one way or the other, been impacted positively by Makerere University. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, she has actually ended it very well. Yusuf, I think what is important is, I think you guys on administration especially, you're doing good, you're doing well. We see a lot of transformation going on and attempts at doing the best. I think that for us who have passed through that gate, we all have interest in that university, and we wish all the best for you guys, despite the hardships, despite the challenges. But what we have just seen from here alone shows that there is some level of breakdown of interaction and conversation. The student body is very important. It's actually #1 in my view, if I was to, level of, stakeholder mapping. The students are #1, much as the university is run by you guys, but you need to involve them. You really need to. They might make mistakes. They will make mistakes, just like every human being. But I think you need to involve them in the running of the university. And of course, the lecturers. Without them, we cannot run the university. So I think you need to put yourself, gather all of you, fight in the room, but say, let's now make, come to a conclusion. whether we fight or disagree or do whatever we have done to each other, but we must sit and talk. Without talking, the university cannot be. And for me, I think that that is what makes the 100-year celebration different, and for us to feel it. But we will definitely support you where we can. We will not leave you on your own. I want to thank you all. Isabella, thanks so much for being very active with us. Honorable Mapenduzi, never tiring, and thanks a lot. We will also support your the foundation event, which is coming up on the 13th of August.
You are most welcome.
We will definitely support you. Shamim, thank you very much. And I know how much you have been occupied, and getting you was hard. But you know, we had to use all ways to get you, and thanks for putting up a good show. Dr. Kakuru and my good friend Mr. Chiranda, thank you very much. And I wish that you come again. We have, in this 100 years celebration, we are going to have 2 or 3 more discussions, and we would want these issues to come up, and they should be further discussed for the good of the university. Someone said, you know what, that we begin to fight and kill ourselves once we stop talking. So let's keep talking. From the team here, the entire team, from the, you know, the behind the headlines, the producer Etiang and the rest of the team, the technical crew, we want to thank you all very much, and to you out there for your messages, especially you, the guys who sit, you know, watching. I've seen messages from you, from Washington, from other places, from Kenya and Sierra Leone. Thank you so much for watching this show and ensuring that it is your #1 show. Keep it here. God bless you all. Bye-bye.
Ni MTN Kabode Super as you pay mpola for this smartphone. Make calls, update your WhatsApp status, watch YouTube, and Google anything under the sun with 2 GB worth of data every month for 7 months. Simply make a small deposit of 99k and pay the balance mpola. You can pay in daily, weekly, or even monthly installments while you enjoy your new phone. So what are you doing today? Visit any MTN shop near you and get the MTN Kabode Super easy.
Are you a player in the tourism sector with a struggling business following the COVID pandemic? UDB, in partnership with European Union, is providing financial assistance to businesses operating in the tourism sector. You can access subsidized loan with grants, loan with a tenor of up to 5 years, free business advisory services, and free environmental impact assessment. Visit www.udbl.co.ug/call for applications to apply. Deadline for submission is 31st October 2022 at 5 p.m. For more information, please call 0414 355 509.
Enjoy more GBs for the same price on Airtel. Shareable using to Gabonais. We have increased GBs across all your favorite packs. Now, 4 GB is at 10,000 shillings and 10.5 GB at 22,500 shillings, all valid for a week. For the heavy data users, enjoy 24 GB at 50,000 shillings and 50 GB at 100,000 shillings, all valid for a month. Dial *175# or use the My Airtel app to buy these and more affordable weekly and monthly data bundles on Airtel, the smartphone network.
Government of Uganda, through the Uganda Bureau of Statistics (UBOS), is undertaking nationwide census mapping aimed at providing an up-to-date list of enumeration areas and administrative units in the country ahead of the National Population and Housing Census of 2023. The UBOS field teams will be using Global Positioning Systems (GPS) for mapping all administrative infrastructure, households and other facilities such as hotels, schools, hospitals and water sources to facilitate production production of the updated LC1 parish, sub-county and district area maps showing all the physical features and social amenities. The census mapping will further aid development of a countrywide data for information systems as a pillar for effective implementation of the parish development model. This is to appeal to the entire government leadership, all stakeholders and the general public to support the field teams that will be deployed across the country. Announced by Dr. Chris Ndatira Muchiza, the Executive Director and Chief Statistician. For further clarifications, please contact the Office of the Executive Director on 0755 342 128.
Meet Professor Petero. He knows something every hustler in UG is gonna love.
Oh, see. You say I was just trying to get the documents to register for Airtel Money.
You don't need the documents. You just say to register.
What's going on here? He sells things from the shop, and behind my back, he gets the money and gives it to his girlfriends.
But just get Airtel Money Pay so that all money comes direct to your business wallet, and only you, the owner, have access to it. Just dial *185 *10 hash, and now you are on. No waiting. Huh? This insanity is sweet. Give them also.
I only take Airtel Money Pay. It's easy and secure.
Yes, become a safer and more efficient cash-free business today. Easy. No mixing your business money with your Kameza money. Now, that's efficient. Airtel Money. Instant, secure, borderless.
Nkwete mama Rita Yaman Rasta Chazi ninyeta abantu mwena abanyambarana n'emyanya etorire